Beethoven, the most recognized name in all of music history. What could I possibly say about him or his music that hasn't been said many times over? Exactly nothing. It's all been said. But as orchestras all around the world, including your Des Moines Symphony, celebrate his 250th birthday next season, I am still fascinated by the genius that challenged everything that came before him and that continues to make a huge impact on classical music today. Now, Beethoven came from a musical but dysfunctional family. He was quite talented, but he lacked the charm and charisma that Mozart had, who was 15 years older than Beethoven and the most famous composer of the day. There was always tension in Beethoven's home, courtesy of his overbearing grandfather, his alcoholic father, and bitter mother. In this environment, Beethoven became withdrawn and despondent. He used music as his escape. In spite of this adversity, he became a very good pianist and violinist, and even became proficient enough to play viola in the court and theater orchestras in Bonn as a teenager. When he was only 16 years old, arrangements were made for him to travel from Bonn to Vienna to play for Mozart. The story goes that Beethoven played the opening of the first movement of Mozart's own 24th Piano Concerto. After several minutes, Mozart stopped him abruptly, muttering, "Anyone can play that. Play something of your own." And Beethoven did. When he was finished, there was a long silence. And then Mozart walked Beethoven into the other room where his wife Costanza was entertaining friends. Mozart proudly announced, "Watch out for this boy, ladies. One day he will give the world something to talk about." Prophetic words, indeed. By the time Beethoven was 30 years old, he was a very confident artist. Mozart had died 9 years earlier, and Beethoven had taken over Vienna as the new and unrivaled master of instrumental composition. He was so self-assured that he envisioned a complete edition of his works. He was the first composer or performer that referred to himself as an artist. He was not the least bit impressed with wealthy patrons. Although he understood that his success depended on their support, he made it very clear to his patrons that he would never enter through the servants' entrance. Haydn and Mozart would have never questioned such a thing, but Beethoven, he demanded to be treated as an equal. Beethoven's life changed the way people thought about artists and art, and his music changed the course of music history and affected how we listen to, write about, interpret, and perform music. When speaking to a patron after one of his concerts, he said, "There will be many who follow you with your last name, but there will be only one Beethoven." Beethoven grew up during the Age of Enlightenment, which emphasized reasoning and logic over superstition. The scientific method was developed, and intellectual pursuits were valued. This made a big impact on how Beethoven thought about the world. He embraced progressive literature, and even as a young man dreamt of a piece about universal brotherhood while reading Schiller's Ode to Joy. When he was 22 years old, he moved permanently to Vienna and was very taken by all the city had to offer. Romanticism, that era of mystery, emotion, and imagination, was budding. And although I'm not certain that Beethoven embraced all of this, his music was certainly inspired by everything going on around him, which led to the emotion he poured into every single note he wrote. Beethoven's music expressed fear, awe, horror, surprise, tragedy, nostalgia, yearning, majesty, pain, and triumph like no one else. This wide range of emotion is exactly what came to define Romanticism in music. His talent and his legacy affected every composer that followed him, including Schumann, Brahms, Mahler, Shostakovich, Prokofiev, and Tchaikovsky. His 9 symphonies continue to be the standard bearer for all composers. Look at the first page of his first symphony and notice how it begins with a series of chord sequences in the wrong key, finally resolving in measure 4. His third breaks boundaries of length and has the most transcendent funeral march ever written. His famous Fifth Symphony demonstrates victory over conflict, triumph over adversity. He extended the range of the orchestra in this piece with the addition of piccolo, and he also added 3 trombones for color and strength. His sixth, the Pastoral, is a vivid and perfect evocation of nature. Look at the example of the last movement of his Seventh Symphony, that Wagner referred to as the apotheosis of the dance, with its unbridled rhythms and fast tempo. The eighth, a throwback to his teacher Haydn, is cheerful and of course short by his standards, and in his own mind, his very best symphony. And then came the monumental and final symphony, his ninth, a universal call for brotherhood, seen by many as one of the great pieces of art ever created by man. Great art compels us to discover and rediscover the artist's intentions. My experience studying and performing Beethoven's music all my life is that it is the pinnacle of greatness. His music continues to stretch all of our imaginations and challenge us in ways that we never thought possible. It appeals to us like a great novel or movie that we read or watch over and over again, constantly discovering things we previously missed, or finding it resonates differently in the different phases of our own lives. Remember Beethoven's own words: "There will never be another Beethoven." If you're interested in doing some listening on your own, you'll find links to some of my favorite performances on our website, performances that have kept me coming back to Beethoven for decades. You can listen right on the webpage after watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed your visit to the DMSO listening room as part of our DMSO at Home series. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to next time when I explore how I program music for future concerts. Stay well.